How dogs actually played a role in World War I. They say that dogs are man's best friend, and perhaps nowhere was that truth more powerfully proven than on the battlefields of the First World War. In a war that redefined human suffering and endurance, dogs became silent heroes, serving loyally beside soldiers who often saw them as their only source of comfort, hope, and love. While millions of men fought and died in the trenches, thousands of dogs worked tirelessly across Europe, delivering messages, rescuing the wounded, guarding positions, and offering companionship amid despair. When the Great War began in 1914, few could have predicted how vital animals would become to the war effort. Horses, mules, pigeons, and even camels played their part, but it was the dogs who proved to be among the most adaptable, courageous, and emotionally supportive allies on the front. Each of the major armies, British, French, German, Belgian, and later American, developed their own canine units. By the end of the war, it was estimated that over 5,000 dogs had served in some capacity across Europe. In Germany, dogs had already been used in military service before the war. German Shepherds, Dobermans, and Rottweilers were trained for security and communication duties. When the war erupted, the German army quickly deployed thousands of them to patrol perimeters, carry messages, and locate the wounded. Their success soon caught the attention of the Allies. The French army, followed by the British, began training dogs for similar purposes. France in particular became known for its mercy dogs, or chiens sanitaires, who braved the front lines to find soldiers buried under rubble or hidden in shell craters. These mercy dogs were remarkable. Each one carried small medical packs on their backs, containing bandages, morphine, and even small flasks of water. Their mission was both simple and heartbreaking. They were trained to search no man's land after an attack, finding wounded soldiers who had been left behind. If the soldier was still alive, the dog would stay beside him, offering comfort until medics arrived. If the man was too badly injured to move, the dog's presence at least ensured that he did not die alone. There are numerous accounts from both sides describing how these animals quietly laid their heads on a dying man's chest, as if to give him peace in his final moments. The Red Cross took great interest in these canine units, supporting training programs and standardizing their work. Some dogs became so skilled that they could tell the difference between the uniforms of friend and foe, approaching only those who belonged to their own side. They moved carefully through barbed wire, ignoring the chaos of gunfire, explosions, and screams. Their loyalty and calmness under pressure made them invaluable. It is estimated that thousands of lives were saved by these dogs, who could locate wounded soldiers far faster than human rescuers. Not all dogs served as medics. Many were used as messengers, carrying written notes or small pouches attached to their collars. In an era before reliable radio communication, this could mean the difference between victory and disaster. Telephone lines were constantly destroyed by shellfire, and human runners were easy targets for snipers. Dogs, however, could dart across the battlefield, keeping low and moving quickly. Their small size and speed made them difficult to hit, and they often managed to deliver messages that saved entire units from being surrounded or cut off. The British used a wide variety of breeds for this purpose. Collies, terriers, and lurchers were particularly popular due to their intelligence and stamina. The French often relied on Briards, while the Germans preferred their Shepherds and Dobermans. These animals were trained to recognize specific commands and follow complex routes under the most stressful conditions imaginable. They learned to ignore loud noises, flashing lights, and even the smell of blood. In some cases, two dogs would run the same route together, increasing the chance that at least one would make it through. Among the most famous messenger dogs of the war was a German shepherd named Felix of Luano. He served with the British forces and was credited with saving an entire company by delivering a vital message during heavy artillery fire. Felix reportedly traveled nearly 4 kilometers under shelling, arriving exhausted but alive. His courage made him a symbol of loyalty and bravery, and after the war, he was celebrated in parades and public exhibitions. In the United States, the most beloved war dog was Sergeant Stubby, a small brindle bull terrier mix who served with the 102 Infantry Regiment. Stubby was not an official war dog at first. He was smuggled onto a ship by his owner, Private J. Robert Conroy, and became the regiment's unofficial mascot. But Stubby soon proved his worth in combat. He learned to recognize the sound of incoming artillery shells and would bark warnings to the soldiers. During one battle, he detected a gas attack before the humans could smell it, saving dozens of lives. Stubby also helped capture a German spy who was mapping Allied positions. After the war, he received several medals, and General John J. Pershing personally awarded him a gold medal for heroism. He later became a symbol of the bond between soldiers and their canine companions. In addition to their military roles, dogs provided something far more human: emotional support. Life in the trenches was brutal. Cold, hunger, mud, and fear wore men down both physically and mentally. The presence of a dog often brought moments of calm and joy amid chaos. Soldiers would share scraps of food with them, talk to them during long nights, and sometimes even write letters home mentioning how much comfort their dogs gave them. Many units adopted stray dogs they found in villages or on battlefields, giving them names and treating them as fellow soldiers. One touching example is the story of a French dog named Prusco. He was adopted by a group of soldiers after wandering into their camp. Whenever shelling began, Prusco would run through the trenches, barking as if to warn the men to take cover. He survived multiple battles and became something of a legend among the troops. When he was eventually killed by shrapnel, the soldiers gave him a full military burial. They built a small wooden cross over his grave and wrote a note that simply said, "He served better than many men." Few dogs also played a key role in keeping order and safety behind the front lines. Guard dogs protected supply depots, ammunition dumps, and hospitals from theft or surprise attacks. Their sharp senses made them ideal for detecting enemy infiltrators during the night. Some were even trained to detect mines and unexploded shells. In an age before advanced technology, their instincts saved countless lives. There were also messenger dogs used by the Red Cross to transport small blood samples and messages between field hospitals. Their reliability was astonishing. In one recorded case, a dog successfully carried a blood sample through a zone under constant artillery fire, allowing doctors to save a wounded officer by giving him a matching transfusion. Germany's organized use of dogs was particularly effective. By 1916, the German army had over 3,000 trained dogs in service. They were so efficient that British and French soldiers often tried to capture them to learn from their training methods. Some captured German dogs were later retrained to work for the Allies, a testament to their adaptability and intelligence. Not all stories had happy endings, of course. Many dogs died in the line of duty. They were victims of shellfire, gas attacks, or exhaustion. Some starved when supply lines broke down, or were lost in the chaos of retreat. Yet even in death, they were remembered with respect. Soldiers often buried their dogs with small ceremonies, marking their graves with sticks, helmets, or pieces of stone. These simple acts showed how deep the bond between man and dog had become. After the war, many surviving dogs were brought home by the soldiers they had served with. Others were adopted by families or honored in public ceremonies. Monuments were built in several countries to commemorate their bravery. In France and Belgium, statues of war dogs can still be seen today, often depicted carrying medical packs or messages. In Britain, the National Army Museum features stories and artifacts dedicated to these loyal animals. And in the United States, Sergeant Stubby's preserved remains are displayed at the Smithsonian Institution, reminding visitors of his remarkable service. The use of dogs in World War I also marked the beginning of modern military canine programs. The lessons learned during the Great War shaped how armies would use dogs in future conflicts, including World War II and beyond. Training methods were refined, and specialized schools were established. Dogs became official members of the armed forces, recognized for their discipline, intelligence, and bravery. Beyond their practical contributions, perhaps the most lasting impact of these animals lies in what they represented. They embodied loyalty, courage, and compassion at a time when humanity itself seemed lost. In the mud and horror of the trenches, they reminded men of gentler things, of home, of family, of unconditional love. They were living symbols of hope in a world torn apart by hatred and violence. Even today, the legacy of World War I's dogs lives on. Modern military dogs serve around the world in search and rescue, bomb detection, and therapy roles. Their training has evolved, but their purpose remains much the same: to protect, to serve, and to comfort. The bond formed over a century ago between soldiers and their dogs continues to inspire new generations. So, when we speak of the heroes of the Great War, we often think of the men in uniform. But among them were thousands of four-legged soldiers, silent and selfless, who gave everything without question. They did not understand politics or strategy. They knew only loyalty. And in their quiet way, they helped change the course of history. Perhaps that is why, even today, the image of a soldier in the trenches, sharing a meal with his dog or stroking its head after battle, remains one of the most moving symbols of that terrible war. It reminds us that even in the darkest times, the bond between humans and animals can bring light, warmth, and humanity to a world at war.